Hello. So week 3. This week I read The Heretic's Daughter by Kathleen Kent, Summer of My German Soldier by Bet Green, and watched Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters. So I'm going to start with The Heretic's Daughter. Takes place in puritanical New England, 1600s, during the time of the Salem witch trials. It actually is based on a historical person, Martha Carrier. She was one of the first women executed in the Salem witch trials for witchcraft. And Kathleen Kent, which I found interesting, is actually a descendant of hers. I found online it says she's a 10th generation descendant. So while this book is fiction, it does feature actual historical people. It deals with, aside from the historical events, it does deal with a lot of common themes. Family, love of family, looking out for others before yourself, things of that nature. It is told from the point of view of Martha's daughter, Sarah. So you kind of get to experience it through her eyes and her perspective. And I chose this book because, I'm familiar and I've read The Crucible, and I enjoyed that. It's such a crazy time period in our history that you just kind of want to understand what people were thinking, why they thought what they thought at the time, and it brings up points to discuss with students today about, extremist views and very extreme measures that people go to preserve their way of being, their ways of belief, things like that. And we see those kind of things in today's world. Maybe not right here in our backyard, but we still have groups like ISIS who are trying to promote their own extreme views and doing so in a violent and terroristic way. Along those same lines, the second book that I read was The Summer of My German Soldier by Bet Green, and that takes place during World War II. It's told by a girl named Patricia Patty. She's kind of the black sheep of her family. She has a younger sister who everyone adores. She's very cute and lovable and pretty, and Patty is not. She, kind of gets herself in trouble, speaks out when she shouldn't. Her father is extremely abusive, both emotionally and physically. Her mom just kind of doesn't intervene, doesn't have anything nice to say to her. So she's pretty much on her own. Her best companion and most maternal figure she has is her housekeeper, Ruth. And they have a great relationship. Ruth takes care of her. She gives her advice. And in their town, there was a POW camp built for German soldiers, and one of them escaped, and Patty actually helped hide him for a period of time and fed him and came to care for him very much. And Ruth ultimately came to find out about this. He wasn't there very long, and she helped Patty by, giving her food to bring to him and things of that nature. It's interesting because you would think, when I began reading it, I thought the duration of the book was going to be their relationship and her harboring him, when actually he winds up leaving pretty partway through the book, and then it's kind of what happens after. Ultimately, she gets found out and that she did keep him safe, but because she was so young at the time, she was about 12 years old, 12, 13 years old, they can't really prosecute her for treason. They kind of make the case that she didn't know what she was doing, and they were trying to see if anyone else was assisting her, and she says it was just her, and she was aware of what she was doing, but she was just trying to do the right thing. The German soldier is very nice, he's very well educated, and it really humanizes the face of the German soldier. He can speak English and very well. His parents are both very well educated. His father's a professor at a university. So for her, it really kind of struck her because to that point, Nazis were these cruel, terrible, savage beasts. And here comes this kind man who pays attention to her in a way that no one does. He cares about her. He recognizes that she has value as a human, and she loves that, and she's so starved for that she really kind of falls in love with him. And once he leaves, she kind of just goes about thinking she's gonna meet up with him again someday, and then you find out that he has been killed, and she winds up being sentenced to some time in a home for wayward girls. And at the end of the book, Ruth comes to visit her, and she's talking to Ruth, and she's asking Ruth, you know, what's wrong with me? Why don't people like me? Why does everybody hate me? And Ruth is basically saying, you know, it's not you. Your parents were not good parents, and not everybody hates you. I love you, meaning Ruth. And she said, and Anton, he loved you. Anton was the soldier. And the quote I picked was, why, I ain't the only one, he loved you. Anton did. With my own eyes, I saw that man come rushing out of his hiding place to save you. And I saw his face, and I ain't never gonna forget what was written there, because it said I'd give my own life to save her. Because at one point in the story, Patty's father was beating her in the yard, and she had Anton hidden in a room over above their garage, so he was able to see what was going on, and without even thinking, he rushed out, but before anybody saw him, aside from Ruth, he was able to scoot back into his hiding place because his reaction was to protect her. So she really had a hard time, and the book was interesting because it just kind of stopped. There was no real conclusion. It was the conclusion that it came to was kind of that Patty was realizing that she wasn't a bad person. She didn't have to spend her life thinking that she was always doing something wrong. So she was kind of overcoming the damage, or coming to terms maybe with the damage that her parents had done to her by treating her so poorly when she was a child. So both of these books are set in obviously significant historical settings. World War II, obviously a huge part of our history and world history. The Salem witch trials, also a huge part of the United States history, and often talked about in history classes. So this is a great cross-curricular opportunity, exposing students to literature, but also the themes that these things bring about. That we still are seeing today. Blanket judgments made about people based on who they associate with, or maybe the way that they present themselves to the world, and being proven wrong when you make those blanket judgments. The last was the movie. Percy Jackson deals with it's kind of like a new spin, teen spin on Greek mythology. Percy is the son, he's half mortal, half god. He's the son of Poseidon, and his mother's immortal. And he and his friends are tasked with defending Mount Olympus from a villain. So they are going off on this quest and doing all these things, and there's all these references to Greek mythology all throughout, different gods and goddesses and things, and all these different things, which are really fun and interesting